This program is made possible in part by a grant from Humanities Texas, the state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities.
Hopper actually makes a living doing blacksmithing. You would not think that blacksmithing is that popular. There is not that much need for blacksmithing or ironwork created today, but indeed he does, and he does everything by hand. I'm happy that you are here once again. How many of you have actually seen a blacksmith work before? Okay. Hopper is kind of an exception to the rule because he can actually work and talk at the same time.
If you have a piece of gum, I'll chew that too.
No gum chewing, please. So anyway, that's kind of an interesting quality that he has. What we'd like to start off doing, this is going to be very informative, but yet it's going to be a very fun time for you as well, because we want you to ask questions. Hopper's going to, I'll give you a little narrative. Hopper will do some demonstrating, question time, and so we'll kind of go through that through the afternoon. That we want to make it a part of a fun day for you, but we also want you to ask questions and get any information answered that you have questions about. So he's already shared a little bit about his background, so I'll let him kind of finish up on that and how he actually got started in blacksmithing.
Right. Well, my name is Hopper Shannon. I am a historical blacksmith. 17th, 18th century is what I like to do. I do all the way back to the 12th century Spanish, 11th century Spanish crosses. I design all my stuff. I make all my tools to do all my punch work, and I'll pass some of this stuff around here later, and I'll even do some punch work here and show you the design work I do. These designs that I have made on these tools right here are designs that I have got off of crosses from 11th, 12th, 13th century and right on up. All Spanish stuff and from Mexico, and it's just really neat to do this. I was raised up down in Antigua. I'm from South Carolina, but I was raised up down in Antigua and played in the Ornos, got black like kids always did down in Saleta and all the Ornos down there. Ran around all my life down through there as a kid, and it's just great, you know, being a white guy and living with all the Mexican people, Spanish people, Native American people down there was great. I loved it, you know. That's why we call Bel Air High School a wonderful world of color, because everybody was there and it was just a really neat place to be. Same with Antigua. I've done a lot of cowboying in Clovis and stuff, done a lot of horseshoeing. I don't anymore. I leave that to the young guys, because my back has been blown 3 times. I broke it 3 times. Vietnam veteran and all too. I just keep myself busy. If you retire like some of us do, and 6 months later they're burying you, because them potato chips and that beer came a little too close to the table and too much of it. You know, I don't drink anymore, none of that. But anyway, I will show you some things. My wife's going to be explaining a lot to you. I'm going to show you all how to, probably the first thing that she'll talk to you about, and I will make one right here and show you how it works and everything, is a chispa. It's actually the flint and steel. It's the way they made fire before matches. We're buckskinners. We do the mountain man rendezvous. We live in teepees and stuff out in the woods at times. All over the United States, or they're everywhere, and there's about 800,000 of us in the United States that do that. We portray living history. We do a lot of cowboy stuff too up in Santa Fe at Los Golondrinas Museum. We used to, we haven't for a few years, but it was all Billy the Kid stuff, and that's this area. It's all, anything with history, I hated when I was a kid, probably like a lot of y'all. That was my worst subject in school. I'm involved in it every day now, but I'm not memorizing dates and all this stuff like they did then. I'm literally getting to do the work and feel it. I feel the part, feel like the Spanish guy, whatever, from those days. It's just a great thing. These computers and all is going to be good for you guys, but people like some of us, we don't need them. We don't need them. We don't want them. But you can go on and carry now, Katie.
Okay. When blacksmithing came to, okay, when blacksmithing came to the Southwest, there had been a number of expeditions that had come prior to Oñate coming. They had made an influence somewhat, but when Juan de Oñate came in 1598, he brought with him Franciscan friars who began here in the Rio Grande Valley. Then they traveled up into Arizona, and then they carried on into upper California. When he brought the Franciscan friars with him, he also brought a number of tradespeople. The tradespeople were theologians, first of all, because it was to be missions. It was a mission trip. Brought craftspeople, as far as woodworkers, metal urchins, blacksmiths. So the whole idea of the trip, the expedition, the caravan that brought many, many people, was in order to train them, to train the Pueblo Indians as well as the Spanish-speaking people of the area, to learn a trade and to build the missions. Oñate, of course, had come from Spain. He had come through Chihuahua and had come up in the Camino Real. And as he traveled this way, and as he met the people, he fell in love with the indigenous people, and it was very important to him that he make a relationship with him, and that he indeed taught them a trade. So as they learned their trade, many things became available to them. As Sue mentioned earlier, iron was very important, but at that particular time, iron was scarce. We're talking 1598. So a lot of things were made from used files. They were made from old pieces that they had found from the railroad, from the wagons and so forth, from the caravans. And so any kind of little iron piece that they could find, they would salvage and keep those. Hopper does the very same thing today. We'll be out traveling around and he'll see pieces of iron on the road, whether it's a small piece, a large piece, a square piece, a round piece. He knows that at some point in his work, he can actually use that particular piece. Now, we're going to be talking about a variety of things, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the chispa. Hopper mentioned that, and that does mean spark, for those of you who don't know Spanish. And it was actually called a strike-a-light. But chispa is spark, and that's the word that we commonly use, and that's the one that we're going to refer to when we talk about the strike-a-lights. So Hopper will go ahead and get started with that, and what I'll do is I've got a couple of different varieties, and I'm going to pass those around to you as well, and then I'll share a little bit more as we go along.
Now let them know these are the originals found in Camino Real.
Right, okay. The first two that I'm passing around, one is called a coffin striker. Needless to say, it has the shape of a coffin. It also, a lot of times, would be made into a screwdriver to where you could actually use the bottom part of this as a screwdriver. So that came from the Camino Real. This is a more common shape of a striker. It's a very small one, but yet it can be used to make a fire. And then we have one, a decorative one, that indeed they did go into making a variety of animals. This one happens to be a swan or duck, but they made birds, they made flowers, they made a variety of ways of ordaining, or making their pieces ordaining.
Okay, the first two trail out here, out behind the Caballo Mountains, is where they were found. Those are relics. Those are actual ones, and they were small because you were walking, or you were on your feet. You know, your horse carried all your plunder and your mules, so you were walking. You didn't want all this weight on your body. So you would rather have something like that, a smaller one than a larger one. The kitchen ones were usually big ones, to where they had it hanging on a piece of leather to where they could do it and then light the stove. Okay, I've got a piece of steel in here now. This is high carbon steel that I've already brought down to thickness and everything, and I'm going to heat it up so much on the end, about an inch of it, and I'm going to draw that out and I'll show you how it works. So the word drawing out that I'm going to use a lot is a blacksmith term for stretching the steel. That's what the word drawing out means. Now give me a few minutes to do this. This fire down inside of this coal forge, I wish it was around to where y'all could see it, but if I don't have it like this, the wind's going to blow the smoke all over you, and it's not going to be good for you. That fire will get 4,000 degrees down in there. I can ruin that piece of steel. It'll be gone. If I can melt it and burn it up, but I got to really watch it. And see, it's good we're over here today in the shade, because I need I need it even a little bit darker than this, if any way possible. That way you can see the color of your heat on your steel. Because high carbon steel, if you get this as hot as you get the mild steel that I'm going to get here in a while, it'll ruin this. It'll change the whole structure of the steel. See, it's heated that up that good already. Okay. And I'll explain this as I go along. I'll get this part done and then I'll tell you what I'm doing here. Now, whoever has that chispa right now, if you look at it, you'll see there's two little curls on it, and that's what I am doing. That's what I'm doing this here for now. You notice I've choked it down on this one end, brought it out thin. I'll draw that out a little bit longer, and I'll roll that piece of steel all the way back up to touch here. Then I'll flip it around, do the other side, and then I'll bend it into the horseshoe shape. I got to be real careful with this now because it overheats and I'll ruin it. What I'll do is I'll find, if you notice on this anvil there's all these lines. I can take them off, add more to them. I'll use one, I use them as reference lines. I don't have to pull out a ruler and all that. So I'm going to bring this one now, it's going to stop right there on that line, and I'm going to roll it. This was one important tool to have back in the old days, very important. No striker, no fire. Okay. All right, I've already made that curl on there now. Okay. See, instead of cramping your arm up, make a little rings like this. You hook these little rings on here. I just invented the vice grips. That's how they were invented right there. I knew the old boy that made the vice grips. He's dead now. Lived right out of Lincoln, Nebraska. I was demonstrating one day at the Farm and Ranch Museum, and I did that, and he says, "Man," he said, "that looks good," you know. And he talked to me, and he gave me his card. He was the guy that made them, invented them. So really neat to meet him. He died about 101. He was an old guy. Yeah. And you've constantly got to be pushing your fire together. So, a lot of work with the fire to just keep it going right. Almost. Actually, what this is doing, there's a fan in here and it's putting air underneath my fire, making it very hot. One thing with blacksmithing, you have got to be right on with your hammer, because if you're not, you're destroying what you just made, you know, and you don't want that. A little more. Okay, we're there now. And all I did there, sticking that tip in the water, is I just barely wanted to cool the tip of it because it's thin. That's the first part that'll burn off if I don't watch it. Gotta be careful. Okay. And I know what y'all are thinking, but I've never missed yet. There's guys that have really just split their chin right in half, man. Yeah. I don't say I haven't done that yet. I don't want to do it at all. At all, because boy, that's going to hurt. I've been hit hard enough with a fist, but not with that hammer. So. Okay. And you got to have different tools. This is a tool I made here, and you'll see what I'll do with it. I'll bend that horseshoe around this. That T-spot. All of my tools I make. The only thing that I use that I haven't made is my hammer. That's it. I make all my tongs, all my other tools. I make them all.
Are you okay?
And I used to have a big old beard, but that's what happens, man. That's what happens. It's good that I keep it trimmed now. And I put my welder's hood on the other day and looked in the mirror, or glass was right there, and I looked, and the beard was exactly the bottom of the hood. So if it was longer, it's just going to even it off anyway, you know, with the sparks from the welder. So.
These two were actually found on the
kind of dangerous, really. But.
So they are old. Just how they started their fires before matches. Yeah. Everybody will get a chance to try. See if they can start a fire.
I better put my mark on it here. I've got a diamond. My company's Diamondback Forge. So I just signed it right there. I gotta watch that or it'll be gone. Now let's see here. Yeah, I'm right there.
So how many heats does it take you, Hopper, to make a chispa?
It's hard to say.
Just kind of depends.
See, if I wouldn't hit that right on the money, right off the bat, I would have had to heat it up again to bring one side down to meet the other. But I hit it right on the money. Sometimes that's just the way it works out. Okay, now what I've got to do here now is file the surface. It has to be very smooth for it to spark. A lot of people think when they were all made out of files and it had the markings on them like this, but on the edges on those chispas they made them all nice and smooth. Some people think if it was rough like this you'd get a better spark. You won't get any spark at all. It'll just ruin your piece of stone. It'll ruin your flint. But most all of this stuff was made out of files back then. Your knives, strikers, anything that had to have a spark or anything sharp, it was made out of a file. A lot of them come from Spain, from England. In that book, you will see a chisel and a hammer. That's a file maker's tools right there. When they make the carbon steel, then he made the tools to make the file. this vise here is a very old vise too. It's real old. This vise is handmade. It's an old vise. Don't fall off now. You notice how I'm using that file too. Straight stroke. You don't do this. Like you see a lot of people, all you do is cut off you flatten out the cutting edge if you do it that way. So you just go one direction with it. Okay. Now I'm going to heat it up again, get the right color, and then I'm going to quench it in the water. And what it does by putting this in water is you're making that tool very brittle. If I got it and throw it on the ground, it's probably going to break. But you just take good care of them, because the harder it is, the more spark you're going to get out of it.
Oh, tongs. Tongs.
Got to get it to a dull orange color. That's what it's got to be. Not quite. It's getting there, but not quite. Let's see. Man, we're almost. So you can see Blacksmith, in 3/4 of your time, your steel is in your fire. When it gets out here, you got to know what you're going to do with it. Okay.
Explain. Hopper, explain.
Yeah, right now I just got a good quench on it right now.
And what does that mean?
Well, quenching is cooling your steel or hardening it. Either one, and I'm literally hardening it there. See, that file right now is just bouncing on that. It hardly even want to do anything. But I should have enough here now to where I can get a spark.
I got the flint out here.
Let's see here. And the sharper the edge on this flint, the better your spark. There you go. There you go, right there. And see, with that being smooth, what that is doing is the stone is stripping a fine piece of steel off, and that's what the spark is right there. And if y'all like to check that out, go ahead. Maybe you might want to even draw it out on there or whatever on your paper. Now there's another too. This is a striker knife. That's carbon steel knife. It's a good knife. The back of it is a striker. That's in history itself. These other ones I don't use because they're old ones.
Okay, explain to the gentleman here how to use the striker.
Right.
That way, anybody who wants to have an opportunity can try it.
What you're doing with this is you're going to want to find a sharp edge on here, and you're going to let this part come up to the top. It's just easier working. And you're just going to come right straight on that edge, and it'll cut that every time. Right there, every time it'll work. And like I said, the same thing it'll be with that that knife. Let's see. Actually, this is another one too. This is another style. This goes way back to Spanish. You take this piece of flint here out, and I'll run this around with you, and this is really sparks good. A lot of spark on this one. But that's a little bag that's here on your side, just that you just had right there, and you pull that off there, and you'd.
So that's your big lighter, huh?
That's a big lighter, flint and steel. That's it exactly right there.
I don't know if we want to pass it around to where they could do it in their chair. I think they need to come up front.
It might be better.
Just in case, because when you spark it, a little spark gets on you. It almost feels like a sparkler.
A needle or something.
You know, but to where it doesn't catch your paper or something. So why don't you go ahead, stand up and turn around and show everybody how you're doing it. We're going to do a little class participation here. Very good.
You got it, bud. You got it.
Very good.
It's easier than the...
Yes.
It is. So it's much bigger, and that is a file, too.
Right. It's easier to hold, for sure.
And you can pass that around and show
Somebody else want to
people.
try? You want to try? You two look familiar to me. Do I know you guys? No? Okay.
It's a Diamondback forge.
It's called a forge. F-O-R-G-E.
Hunt snake, so that's where the Diamondback came in.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay. Okay, very good. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's coal. Yes. And it's actually called a forge. F-O-R-G-E. And he uses coal. And an anvil.
Where do you get the coal? I haven't seen coal in El Paso.
Okay. Who else wants to try?
This
Somebody
coal,
else? Okay.
this coal I get comes out of Hesworth, Colorado. There's a bunch of mines right there at Hesworth, and Rob Gunther has a school up in Tijeras, New Mexico, Blacksmith school, and I turned him on to the guy up there, and he gets loads of it in big chunks. Then he built him a crusher, and crushes it, and then we all buy it from him. But he's got school up there, 5 days, $800. But you're going to learn. You'll learn in 2 days if you want to be a blacksmith. Because he'll take 8 or 10 people on. Let's say if he had 8 guys, after 2 days, he's probably got 3 left. You lost your money, everything, and before you know it, you can. Friends of mine say you can look on the internet and there's anvils for sale, and forges, because this is not what they wanted to do. They thought they did, because it's hard, man, very hard work. But let's find something that is, you know.
Okay, somebody else want to try back there? Oh, this little guy over here.
What's up, boss? My preacher and his wife back there.
There you go. Okay, now Hopper Hopper, explain to them about the kit that you have here.
While we're on chispas and everything, this kit right here is something I use at Rendezvous. It's got my flint, it's got my striker, I have some jute, and I have some char cloth.
And then just come
this is how you make a fire right here. I'll go on and get a piece of this started just to show you. It won't make a fire unless I put it in the jute and the whole bit and blow on it, but I'll show you how that gets, how the spark jumps on that, and it'll do it right quick.
You get it, I know.
If you want to do it another way,
that's okay, no problem.
You can do it like that. And I was telling my wife, I kind of wish it was winter time, because if there was a little puddle of water right here, I could take a piece of that ice off of there and I can make a fire with ice. People say, how do you do that? I learned it in the military. You can make your own, looking glass with that piece of ice in the palm of your hand. And if you do it quick, you can do it just like the magnifying glass, and you'll get a fire. Yeah, you'll get a fire.
Yeah, there wasn't much ice in the
No, man, no. I guess that was in case we were going to Russia or something. I don't know. You know. But just to show you now,
okay, those of you in the back, you may have to just stand up out of your chair in order to see. I'm not positive, but no, you can come up this way. Absolutely.
Sure.
This is class participation, as I said, so y'all just move around as you need to.
Right there, that fast, man. It'll do it quick. Okay, what I'm going to do with this here, just to show you, this is a piece of char cloth. You make char cloth by getting you a can with those pop-top lids on it, like a stain or a paint can. Clean it all out, make you a hole in the middle of that lid. Put your cloth inside of it. It's got to be 100% cotton material, like a sheet. No 50-50, it's got to be 100% cotton. And you'll stack that up inside of there, put it on a heat source, preferably outside on the grill or something, because a lot of gas and oil, a lot of gas and smoke is going to come out of that hole. And that char cloth is actually burning inside, but it's not burning it up. If you outside, you've seen charcoal that you go by. That is actually burnt wood inside of a big building where water is going in on it at the same time as it's burning. That makes charcoal. You do the char cloth the same way, and you'll put a piece of it on the back side of your flint, and I'm going to hit this, and it already started one little spark. Look at there. That.
Okay, do it again for this gentleman over here, Hopper, with the camera.
Right, okay.
How fast would it take?
It started that fast. See, honey? See it?
It depends. You know, it depends on so much on the weather, the wind,
Got hot.
the coal.
Got it that time, I think. Yep.
Usually
Ain't burning, so it must be out.
10 minutes, he can get a good fire started, and it runs about 4,500 degrees. If you need to know that too.
And at the end of the day or something, y'all can come up and we can do this right here and show y'all too that way. But see, this is another type of striker. This used to be French, but the Mexicans had a battle with the French down in Mexico in 1853. I can't remember exactly where now.
1860s.
Yeah, and they the Mexicans beat the French. French don't win much of nothing, since they just don't. They just don't. And but this part of this striker right here used to be way up higher. It was way up here. They confiscated a bunch of these from the French, and they reheated them, pushed this part down, and changed the name. It's called a New Mexican. That's literally what it's called now, New Mexican. Yeah, it's all in history. So, all right, baby.
Okay, we have any other questions about the chispa called Strike-A-Light? Okay. Those of you who have ever been east of the Mississippi and have been in any of the colonial historical sites, you know that they have a lot of utensils around their fireplaces, around their kitchen areas for cooking. In the frontier, one item was used for many, many things. So there were very few Strike-A-Lights or chispas that were found. The couple that we passed around that we found on the Camino Real, those are probably just a couple of a very few, to be honest with you. In the frontier times, they utilized more than one utensil for multiple purpose. It was a multi-purpose item. So they didn't have a lot of fanciness because not only was it scarce to find steel, but just to find a blacksmith available to do that. Now, as I shared with you earlier, when Oñate came and his Franciscan friars were teaching the natives the trade, they found that they were very, very talented and just picked it up wonderfully. And so they were so excited that they had come to this area and found a group of people that wanted to learn, wanted to find a trade, and wanted to be able to help in any way to form groups of villages and actually become more in tune with what progress would probably come to be. Now, one of the other things that was very important around the hearth had the chispa, but also we talk about the trivet. Now the trivet, there's two different ones that we've got here. Hopper has made both of these, and one would have the handle with a rat tail, and one would be without the handle. Mm-hmm. So you want to explain a little bit more about these for us?
Yeah, what these are actually used for is if you had a fire, you'd set this on your fire, and you could set a pot. If you had a Kiva fireplace, if you look in the book, the Baca house is in there, and there's a big clay pot about this large sitting on a trivet similar to this one that I've made, and it's sitting up at the Baca house, and it was for just keeping water warm right there, for dipping, and you could cook with it, you could wash with it, whatever. Same with this one right here. One like this one or that one, either one, you could put a shovel of coals out of your main fire here after you've already cooked your beans or your stew, whatever, put it over here on the ground and set this on it, put your pot on here and keep that food warm. So you could use it for cooking or for keeping them warm, either one. And these are some that we use at Rendezvous, is these two right here.
Why don't you explain about
And-
how they're assembled?
Right, and they're actually, if you notice, this is flat stock steel, similar to something like this right here, and you have to bend this. That's why I have this ring. Well, you can't see it now. This ring on this anvil right here, it's round, and I can actually heat this piece up and bend it to be this shape right here, any size I want it. It is forged welded together. Right there. It's hard to see it, but it's forged welded together right here. That's the only way you'd weld back in those days, or you could rivet it together, and you rivet the legs on it. These rivets I've made years ago. This is probably 20 years old, this trivet here. And you build the legs any length you think. Those are shorter, these are long, and you always have to have that heel on it. That way you can set it on the ground, soft ground, hard ground, either one, and it'll sit right there. The reason you make these right here, all pots are not just this size. Some of them are smaller, so you could actually set a small pot right in here and it would still sit there without falling through. That's why you brought these over here. Yep. And it's the same with this one. Like I said, it's just riveted. It's just lighter stock right here, but this one does have the rat tail. That's how it was hung up in the old days right there. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, okay.
Another item that was very handy around the hearth was a comal. And how many of you have a comal at home? Everybody uses one? Okay, do you use anything, do you make anything other than tortillas on it, by chance? You cook everything? Okay, what about you, dear? What about you? What do you cook on it? Tortillas mainly? Okay.
And they're usually the round ones that y'all have probably.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
This one Hopper made a number of years ago, and he actually pieced it together. So there's 3 different pieces here, and then it was riveted here in the front.
And that horseshoe came off the Camino Real. That's a handmade horseshoe from many years back. Yeah.
And this item also would be, you could use it on the trivet as well.
Put on the trivet, you could put it on 2 rocks right there at the fire. You can actually do eggs. This one here has been, everything has been cooked on this one. A friend of mine owns this one now, and I called him to borrow it back because all of them I make I sell, so I don't have any with me. You know, so I have to borrow them from people I sold them to.
Is that already sheet steel, or you got it, or did you pound the steel out?
Just all pieces of steel. Yeah, all pieces, and pounded them all out. And you can see it's been totally worked, and then all riveted together.
Hold
so
it up to the back.
They didn't waste anything. They didn't waste anything at all. They would, like my wife said, they find a small piece, put it in your pocket, and give it to the blacksmith, where he make a nail with it or whatever. So, yeah. That's very, very useful.
At one of the outposts in San Sabine, Texas, which is close to Goliad, which is close to San Antonio, which is close to where the Alamo and a lot of the fighting was held. They had 93 comals that they used for cooking. So they used them not only for individual cooking, but they also used them for the military as well, and that was in the 1750s. So the trivet and the comals worked hand in hand together. Let's see, what else? What do we want to do next?
I could probably.
We have any questions so far on what's been going on? Yes, sir.
How long would it typically take you to make
The comal? Me? Could probably do it in an hour. Yeah. When I first started smithing, a simple S hook took a long time. And I'll make an S hook here and show you how that's done in a bit too, and what they're used for. But you know, on any work you do, you get faster as you learn it. You know, as you feel better with your hand or your whatever you're doing. So go ahead, Kate.
Okay. Yes. Where does the word trivet come from? It comes from a Spanish word that I do not remember right now, but I will get back to you. It's in my book right here, but I will find. Yes, actually, the trivets came. They were a Roman implement, right. And over the course of time, they worked their way, you know, to the Texas area.
The word trivet is tri. That means three legs. You know, that's why, and anything with 3 legs, you go in a restaurant and a table that has 4 legs, it wants to rock. If you go with 3 legs, it'll level. It's self-leveling. It's exactly what it is. That's self-leveling right there. Anywhere on the ground, on the cement, it's self-leveling. It's all one piece of steel. It started out a big round piece about that big, and I had to flatten it out. And back then, I didn't have a tool that I have at home called a trip hammer. It's actually a blacksmith tool. It's about a 900-pound tool, and it has a pedal on it, and it will pound for you. You know, you stick it under it. This was all hand done at that time with this hammer. But you have to, you know, take it and make it the size you want. If you notice, see how it's kicked up on the front? That's for that reason again, to where it don't dig into the clothing as you're running over it. And it's very flat, smooth on the bottom. But you have to, when you work this, you're going to have to pound both sides in using the anvil and the hammer, and bring it out to one thinner piece, and just thin it and thin it and thin it until you get it to whatever size you think is right, to where you fit your hand in it. Because they did a lot of design work back in those. That little curl right there just really sets that off to me. If it was straight, it wouldn't look right. It would look too plain. This gave it a little bit more. That was the Spanish. You see a lot of my tools, and I'll show you all later, there's a lot of twisting in it. That was the Spanish again. They liked that twisting, and
thank you.
I think they did it at first thinking it was just for looks. It actually for strength. You try to get a piece of that when it's twisted like that and bend it, you got corners all the way around it. It's harder to bend that. It's much harder. But these were well needed. There would be like 10 or 15 probably on a wood stove a lot of times, and a piece of leather in your hand, and you just go from one to the other one, iron until it cools, put it down, grab another one, and then you just kept rotating all the way around it. Use them again and again. And they actually made them and put them on the old potbelly stoves too, or racks, and hooked them around them. That came way later on. But this is very old style right here, very old Spanish.
Yeah, that's this steel's pretty thick too.
Yeah, right. So it'd keep the heat there a while. It'd keep the heat quite a bit.
Okay, ma'am, to answer your question about where the word trivet comes from, my pronunciation in Spanish is not very good, so I will spell it out for you. Maybe someone can help me along the way. It is Tenamaste.
Can I look at this?
Yes, a lot of times that's easier. This is the word right here.
Oh, Tenamaste.
Tenamaste.
Telemaste.
Tenamaste. Okay.
Telemaste,
That was what it was in Mexican, and then in Spain it was. I'll let you help me this time. Trebedes.
Trevedes.
Trebedes. Meaning three legs. Okay.
Means
Okay.
three.
So I did help you find that. Now, in this book that we're looking at right here, that we did pass around, on page 117, it does show a picture of the hearth here. This is Hopper's Trivet right here, and this is at Los Golondrinas in Santa Fe. If any of you have ever been there, it's a wonderful working ranch. It is still working. It's a wonderful museum. They've got all kinds of things going on all year round.
Movie sets and everything.
Movie sets. You know, they did Young Guns 2 there. When Billy was in the pig pen, that's where that was filmed. And so it's a very well-known place, and it's right close to the racetrack in Santa Fe. So.
Okay, Katie, what I can do here, if you want, talk about the spoon a minute, and I'll go on and turn that spoon into the, I'll dip it.
Okay,
I'll do
just give me a moment here.
Or whatever.
Yes.
Right.
In 1680, there was a Pueblo revolt. And at that time, it caused many of the colonists to flee down actually to El Paso. When the blacksmith practice halted for about 10 to 12 years, during that time in Sandia Pueblo, it was discovered that many of the Indians had taken on the trade, and they had actually built their own blacksmith shop. They had a forge there. They had a bellows that was made out of cow skin and a big anvil. And so it was very good to know that they had taken on that trade as well as they had. After General Diego de Varas retook New Mexico, he was confronted by the Pueblo warriors at one point. and they had these long lances with these big iron spears on them. And he asked, he said, where did you get those? And he said, well, we had an Indian make those for us. So at that point, the Spanish knew that the Indian had taken on the blacksmith, and they had indeed become part of that culture and had taken on that trade. When he learned that the Tiguas north of Santa Fe, they had an Indian blacksmith, and he had made those for them. During an archaeological dig at Los Golondrinas, they had actually found one of the lances, and they had found it under one of the floors there. Well, they could not identify for sure if it was Spanish or if it was Indian made, but they knew then that the influence had definitely taken over in that area. So blacksmithing did become very popular from the 1598s into today as we know it. So Hopper will go ahead, and we'll go ahead and see what a spoon is all involved with.
Yeah, I've already started this spoon at home just so I could get this part of it done. And I'm going to just show you how they actually dapped this. They actually turned it into a spoon. And if I can get enough heat out of this fire, I'll go on and draw this on out and finish it. I'll probably have to cut it off to make it a little shorter, because once I draw this out, this thing's going to end up being about that long. So I don't want it that long, so I'll end up cutting it. And I'll end up designing it. Where's those, yeah. What I'll do something similar to this, and y'all pass this around and look at it, but see how this right here, this part of the handle, this is what it ended up looking like after you work it and pound on it and stuff and design it and draw this all out. And if I can get enough on this fire, I'll do it, but if not, I'll do this part of it anyway right here and show you too. So, and that's why I've got this out right here, because this here is a swedge block. It's got all these different designs made into here for spoons, all kind of stuff, and I'm going to use one of them here to pound this into it after I heat this. So let me get this hot first.
What is it? Wedge block. Yes. Hopper, when did they start using swedge blocks? Is that an old tool that they use?
Well, the swedge blocks they made back in the old days weren't made like this. They were made with a log. I've got a log at home that my block sets on, and it has 4 or 5 round holes in it, or oval holes that I made into it. You actually burn them into it, little by little, and you use wood instead of the steel. This had to be poured later on. This came later on, many years down the line, to make something like this. But we use it today because you know, because it just makes your job easier. Some things, you know. I gotta get down in here. All right, now it's pretty hot here. And you always wire brush your steel off, get all the slag and all off of it. It's a heavy job. Everything's heavy in this work. All right. I said I think I'm going to go in and cut this off now because I know it's going to need it. Where'd my cutter go? Right here. This is called a hardy. It's for cutting steel, hot or cold, either one. Okay.
So all this metal you're using, is that all low carbon or?
All this is all mild steel, what you call mild steel, right. The only really used high carbon steel is knives, chispas, a few other things, but mainly knives and chispas. Okay, now let's see here. Get the right tongs for this here. Here they are. Okay, we'll just do it here then, try it. Now this is going to take a little bit, so we'll just little by little we'll get her done. So. Now next weekend, if some of y'all want to go to, I do the Cowboy Symposium in Rio Doso next weekend. We have 35, 40 wagons up there, old truck wagons, and they do a big cook-off, and there's about 50,000 people come through that thing or so. And I'm up there with a whole shop set up. I use our old canvas, all old style, the way I set my shop up over there. And I have a few extra tools and all, and do a lot of work right there. I make a lot of stuff for the wagons. I do a lot of the restoration on the wagons, and but no horseshoes. They always say, do some horseshoes. I said, I don't do horseshoes no more. No, let the young guys do it. Not me. I don't think this is going to get hot enough to do it, tell you the truth. Not this one. If it don't, what I'll probably do is I'll make that fork. I think it'd be better. As long as they don't get over here too much, I guess.
Oh,
What that red thing's for.
Hopper, and it's flaming out the top too.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of fire if it's flaming out the top. Yeah. I'm getting it where I would need it now, really.
Probably about 45
Beauty. It might get hot enough yet. Looking at that. So.
It's just barely 2 o'clock.
Huh?
It's just barely 2 o'clock.
I know. Yeah. I know. Well, I've got some heat on it. I ain't gonna get much on this.
Uh-oh.
Once in a while.
Wow.
You meant to do that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Man, you caught that, didn't you? What the bummer about that is when it comes up and hits you in the face. Before you know it, you go in the house and she said, what have you been doing? I said, well, I'm fighting with a piece of steel, you know. Once in a while, it'll get you. But you can see how I'm bringing that down already. Yeah. And you can for the edges to where when you twist it, it gets a good twist. But we'll just do this for a while, Katie, and waste a little bit of the time like we were thinking. So
It's utilizing, Hopper.
yeah, I don't waste time no more, do I?
No.
Okay. Try another pair of tongs here and see.
What's the point of having so many different pair of tongs?
Well, that's a good question there, lady. And I know you want an answer, that's why you ask it.
It's a man thing. It's a man thing. You never have too many thongs.
There's, not everything that you're building is the same size, not the same design, and you have to have a pair of tongs for every one of them. Every one of them you do. This one right here, actually I make animal heads, a ram's head, and when after you make the ram's head and you want to work the other piece of the steel, the ram's head will fit inside of there as you pinch down on it. So you're not distorting the ram's head, but you're holding the steel to heat this part up to turn it into the hook. So they're all different ones, lots of different ones. Okay. And I make every one of them. Sometimes I have people giving me some, but I change them out, change them the way I need them. So you can already tell this job is a weight loss program. You know, it definitely is that, you know. It'll melt it off you in the summertime. The summertime, this is bad work. I mean, it's hard, but I do it. I do it. If I didn't like doing this, I would have quit yesterday, but this is good work. I love doing this. You know, you've heard blacksmiths talk before, and the blacksmith is over here working and he's doing this on the side. People say, well, hey, watch him, he's keeping up a beat, you know. I've been a drummer for 50 years, but I'm not keeping up a beat. That hammer weighs 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds. If you stop that thing dead right there, you got to start it again. So you're doing this, you'll ruin your wrist and your elbow. If you're working like I'm working here, and then you're bouncing it over here, you get it on the up bounce, there's no weight to it, it's weightless. It's like that, it's weightless. We might be stupid or crazy doing this work, but or crazy, we are not stupid, you know, is what it is. We will find an easier way to do it. That's a blacksmith for you. And you got to be good with this hammer and quick with it. Okay, now we'll do work that in. See, we're just bringing it up now. See, at home I have an electric blower and an old rheostat, the old style, and I can do that, turn it high or low, whatever I want, and it'll get that fire roar, and I don't have to do this. So. What's that?
They also have electric floor.
Yeah, really. See, I'm hitting that little thing right there on that end and not even hitting the rest of the steel. Got to know right where you're hitting when you're working it. And you can center something just by using the edge of the anvil. And I'm telling you, those guys had to have been good back in the days that we're talking about, because they had to have an old plowshare or something to pound on. I mean, they were something else, you know. And some of the work they've done is just beautiful. Now, it took a whole lot longer time to do something than it would take me here or at home, but it's just beautiful, you know. A lot of file work on them and different, man, it's just nice. Okay. Now I've got to start cooling that tip, because if I don't, heating this part up is going to burn that off. So I've got to cool it. I'm just spreading the steel out right here for this handle. Okay, I think I'll do some design work on it now. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
About to drop
Out
in
in
there.
the, put it out in the sun or something, I guess. I'll just have it out anyway. Let's see here.
Could you get a bottle of water?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And that thing right there, put my steel under it, and you hit it, it'll lock that piece in there for me. And if you don't watch that, that'll come and hit you in the face too, that thing. You know, you wouldn't think you could get hurt that bad in the shop, in a blacksmith shop, except for maybe burning yourself or getting cut or whatever on a piece of steel. I knew a guy that actually thought he knew a lot about blacksmithing. He took a round ball, was crushing balls that they use for rock crushing, and he welded the water on it so he could put it in the fire and heat it, which is what all of us would do. But what he didn't do is you heat that ball up to that cherry red color and stick it in some dirt like this for several hours or all night, and it'll cool it real slow so it softens the steel, because those balls are high carbon steel. What he did is he heated it up to that orange color, went in the trip hammer with it and started pounding it, boom, it exploded like a grenade right there. It was literally like a grenade, and took him, and it just opened him up. It didn't kill him, but it messed him up bad. So you can actually get rid of yourself doing this work. I mean, not this right here, but doing something like that with a machine, you know. And all of us guys, if you don't learn something from that, boy, it's going to happen to you, you know. So he don't blacksmith anymore either. No. It was actually Paulineus who did it, you know. And he's tried blacksmithing for years after that, and he's just messed up in his lungs and all from it. So. Me and Joe just knew one day he's going to do that to himself. Yeah, and he did it.
And he did.
Okay. Let's see here. This design I'm going to put on here is the oldest design that I have found on any cross or any tool that I found yet in a book or whatever. I've got a can of water back here, and I do about 5 punches, and then you cool the tool. And you're actually hardening it right along as you're cooling it. You're hardening it again and again. I made all these tools about 22 years ago, and I'm still using them. I did something right off the bat, you know. And I have literally taught myself how to do this. I've never been to school, never been taught by anybody. I've got a good friend that's a blacksmith in Mankell, Colorado, Joe DeLaron, probably one of the best ones I've ever seen. And I asked him if he would teach me, and he says, nope. And I says, why not, Joe? He says, you are learning this the best way you can learn it. You're teaching yourself. He said, because you know how to do it, man. And he says, and how it came to you, I have no idea. And he says, but some people are that way, man. It's just there for you, and you just got to pick it up and do it, you know. Okay, now I'm going to go in and finish this rat tail on the top here real quick. And this thing is about done then. Then I'll twist it. I'll show you how it's twisted too. We're just going to waste some time here. We need to. And this is the way they would have done it back in this time that we're talking about too. Just the same way I'm doing it right now. What I'll do a little later too is I'll actually show you. It wasn't in our thing here to do, but I'm going to show you how they made nails, S-hooks, stuff that they used around the fire. And nails was something that is constantly used. You know, clavos, you got to have them. And you know, being a blacksmith, you know how long you can pound on that, even though it's already dark, that will still stick to you. It's hot. But you just know how long you can work on it just by looking at it and knowing the heat that you had in it and what you've got left in it. Actually, when you're pounding something, you've done that with a nail or something before, I'm sure as a kid, you hit it and touch it, it'll burn you. Just the friction. So that's what you're keeping friction going, so you're keeping the heat in the steel.
maybe half a dozen, maybe.
All right. They're gonna know the top of my head better than me when this is over with, you know? Okay. Okay, now I'll twist it right there. Let's see, I don't want to do that. Come on, get up there. And around my shop, I can throw my tools around and I'm not even mad. I'm not hurting none of my tools by throwing them either, man. Moving them from here to there or whatever. Almost. Let's see here. Sometimes at home I got tools laying all around here and I leave them till the end of the day or until I need them. I'll go down at one time and get them up. Oh, come on. You know, when you first start this, you always have the tendency to want to just grab this steel, and you'll only do that once or twice, man. That's, you know, boy, I tell you. I've been talking to people before and had an S hook in the thing and went to go grab it and thought I already cooled it and grabbed it and pull it off, and there's the S brand on you, man. Just, oh. And you try not to burn this hand if any way possible, because, you know, you're not able to do this and you're out of work then. Okay, now uncool it. I can show you all this thing here. One thing I don't have is my touch mark. Gotta put that on there for sure. Let's see where to put it here. There it is.
Yes, ma'am, that's it.
Now at the house, I've got a wire brush that electric wire brush that I would run this on, and it just shines it up. Shines it, and all this is usable stuff. I mean, it's not just to hang on the wall. It's to be used.
Food safe? You use it on food?
Yeah. And I'll just start right here and pass it around. Y'all look at that, hon. But see that design there? That is supposed to be a vine. And those are flowers, supposed to be flowers, and that goes way, way back. Yes, there's my cross, and there's my mark. Diamond. Okay, babe.
With the spoon that Hopper made, you saw him make it out of one piece of steel. Sometimes they were riveted. This is two pieces. All of these pieces that are here on the table actually came out of my kitchen. So these are pieces that I use all the time. I don't know particularly why they made the choice of doing one piece of steel or using a rivet, maybe decoration. I'm not sure.
Actually, what would happen a lot of times, this spoon right here, let's say, this would be used and this would just start wearing out, this part here. So they would just cut it on off right up here. And they would take another piece.
Okay, yes, I see what you're saying.
They would take another piece out of some steel and flatten it out, and they would rivet it to it, or they would forge weld it. It would be lapped over and it would be forge welded together, which is the original weld, which is better than any weld nowadays. To me, it's a much better weld now than it was, you know, in the old days than it is now. So, but that's why.
Most of the pieces that Hopper makes, they're all one piece of steel. So, and they're going to be similar to the spoon. He'll do a fork here in a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to take a little break now so you can come up and look at our things and ask us questions. And if you need to go and do anything else here in the museum for a couple minutes, then you're more than welcome. But we'll take about 10 or 15 minutes, okay? And then come back and visit with us. Hang on one second. I'm going to make a fork. Will be something similar to what you've seen on the table here.
See, now I'll split that piece of steel in a minute with this tool, this chisel, and I made this, make all my tools. This was, and y'all have seen the piece of steel, the drawbar on a 3-point hitch on a tractor, that big square hunk that's back here, you hook it, that's what this is made out of. So you can see when it was 3 inches by 3 inches, what you got to do to bring it down to make it that size. A lot of pounding, a lot of pounding.
I understand. I can identify. Okay, good. They actually work. They will cut all the way down to the very tip. You can just come up with anything. That one and this one were found on the Camino Real. Those two, as well as this. And this is actually gold inlay. So this was, I was telling the guy that was sitting here, I said this was for a very high ranking officer, for him to actually have gold in his fur. But you see how small they are. So back then, of course, most people, they were very tiny back then. They were not large like me.
What's something else that you want Hopper to well reproduce?
Our spurs?
Not a bunch, maybe just one or two.
Okay.
Yeah, something else. I asked him about the strikers.
Right.
Okay, so it's not the bird one, it's these two that were found on the Camino. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
those are the two. I can't
The
believe
coffin striker particularly because
The shoes nowadays are all machine made. You can see what happens if you miss. That hand's going to explode, you know. I've hit it before,
exactly.
hit it pretty good. Okay.
Excuse me.
Knew I'd burn that off of her. That fire got hot on me down in there. Now I gotta change the size, which is okay. With me. Okay. Like a bird in there, little squeak. Probably needs a little oil. You want to hold it?
Hopper, why don't you go ahead and let's talk about the knives and the spurs while the forge cools down.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of finish up here with the knives and so on.
Okay, some of y'all I explained earlier on this spur right here. This spur was given to me by a friend of mine that was found out here in the Camino Real. This spur goes back to the 1700s. It's 1700 to 1735. A friend of mine that makes spurs that made these other ones told me on this one. He said this probably here is probably worth about $3 grand for that one piece of steel right there. That's good money. They actually had copper, brass, and gold inlaid into their spurs for their rankings. This one happens to be gold. You can see the gold marks in that. But look at all the design work in that right there that blacksmith did. All the strap pieces, everything. Just pass that around and just look at that. That is just unbelievable. And all that file work on there. I do a lot of file work like that on my knives and stuff on the top edges and different places that I want to do that on. And in spurs and stuff, there's a lot of that going on, and you'll see it right here on this spur right here. And we'll start over here with this one, and y'all pass it. That is a buzzard head spurs. These are newly made, but they're 1700 style too. So that's what a blacksmith did back then too. And nowadays we have more machines to do a lot of our stuff, but it's still by hand. And you've got to know this machine. All the machine is actually doing is pounding for you in certain places and maybe a saw to cut, but everything else is by hand, so or file work. So you can see all the file work and everything, all that's involved in all that. Buzzard head spurs is what those are. Let's see here, Katie. And we can get into these knives here. I'm going to show you one Joe Dealer Ron made for me too. This is my personal knife. The only reason I'm showing you some of the stuff that he makes me is because the knives I make, I sell them. So, and they're gone with them, but Joe made me this one, and I thought I'd bring this and show you. Now, y'all might be very, very careful with this knife right here. This is razor blade sharp, and it's been made a lot of years ago. But that is buffalo horn on here. That's where the black is right there. That's buffalo horn. This was made from a coil spring, 3/4 inch coil spring. So you get that coil spring from the junkyard. You have to heat it up. You straighten it out. You cut it off, and then you start pounding it. You can see how that little swoop is right there. That's a certain place on the trip hammer that'll do that for you if you know where it's at. But you can see the roundness of that. But if y'all want to, pass that around, but just be very careful with it. Pardon me? That's all done. Oh, it's been buffed and sanded and everything else to get just like that. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk about, you do have one of your knives.
Oh yeah, I've got one of my knives right here. This is called a ravier. It's a rapier. It's in between a sword and a knife. Bigger than a knife, longer than a knife, shorter than a sword. And I made this a while back. You can see all the file work involved in all this. A lot of file working in that.
What is this? Is this the metal from the hilt coming up?
This is the whole piece coming straight up. Right?
Okay.
The whole piece. It's all one piece.
They covered that.
Yes, right. But y'all can look at this. Now, when you look at this part here in the center, some of y'all were talking to me. Somebody was saying they saw that guy on TV the other night that made that Viking sword. He fullered it in the middle. That's what this is right here in the center of it. It's called a fuller. The reason that fuller is there, a lot of people say, well, when you stick it in, that gives a place for the blood to come out. No, it's not a bleeder at all. That's not what it's for. That actually thins the steel down and makes this lighter and makes it stronger bending-wise. It makes it like an I-beam. An I-beam has the thicker up at the top, and then it's got your thinner in the center. This is thin down here, being the knife edge of it, but this being a thrust tool, it doesn't have to be sharp like a knife like that. Is this a thrust tool like a bayonet? You know, if swords, they're not sharp on both sides. Sometimes they're not even sharp on either side. They're just, the weight of it alone is going to do the damage. So, that's just a piece of mild steel. Oh, this is staghorn, German staghorn deer. Yeah. But y'all pass that around too. Look at that. There's all that file working. Fun doing stuff like that. Really, really fun doing it. A lot of work, but it's neat. Some of y'all didn't see these metal arrowheads here either, I don't think. And I'll pass these around. The Indian, Native Americans, they've made all their points, even from Paleo Man from way back, made all their points out of stone. When the native people around the missions, well, what we're talking about now, started learning how to blacksmith, why make them out of stone anymore that break, and you can make them out of steel? That was the way to do them right there. And that's just two different styles. Look at those, ma'am. Pass those around if you like.
Your
Got
hand?
the guy next to you, whatever you want to do. So. Whatever you feel.
No hurting each
No
other.
hurting.
Okay.
And just kind of show you here too, this is what that knife is. This is a smaller style of it, but see, you can see here the thinness in this. You have to work this back here. This is where you'll drill your 3 holes and put your pieces. This is nowhere near finished yet, but this is just something to show you. That's a blank right there. And there's one right there with fireworking on the top of it. You know, just to fancy it up. And this is just another different style. So I'll pass those around and look at them too. I want them all back at the end of the day.
That's right. I'm keeping an eye on everybody out there, you know.
Because I have the worst tool right here.
No, the best.
This is the good
that's
one.
the best
It's
tool.
the best one, really. But Tommy Hawk. Yep. Yeah, this is well made too. And another Joe DeLeron, another one that he made for me. And this is all mild steel, but on the inside of it right here, when it's still this thick, you'll split it with a chisel down about this far. You'll drop a piece of bit steel down in it, you'll forge weld it together. When you pound this part out right here to look like this, bringing this steel out, you will be pushing the bit steel out on this edge. This has got a knife edge on it now. It's not that sharp right now because I've used it, but that there is able to be sharpened again without reducing the stock of the material there. You'll see that nice little design on there too. That's my emblem from the military there. So.
And talk about the MIG axe.
And there's a small little personal, what they call a MIG axe. This is just a head. I don't have a handle on it because I like it just like that. I'm never going to use it. But this was made, and you have to, when you make the hole in these to put your handle, you split that with a chisel. You don't drill it, you don't file it, you split it with a chisel. And you have to be very precise. When you're going through here, you flip it over and you've got to be exactly right on it. On the other side, you go back and do it again until your chisel goes through. Then you make drifts and all kinds of tools that go in there to make it the size of what your handle's going to be. So that's a really neat little MIG axe right there. Nice little tool. What we get on?
Yes. He was a Navy SEAL. The reason Hopper keeps mentioning Joe DeLeron is because all of those things that Joe made, those are all a personal gift from me to him. So that's how Hopper acquired those, or he probably would not have made the purchase of those. But you know, some men are very hard to buy for, and some women, you know, are hard to buy for. So I have found something that Hopper enjoys, and I have started a collection for him with those items. How's everybody? Has everybody had a good time today? Have you enjoyed? Have we been informative for you? I hope we have, because
Just like the teacher said, did you learn anything?
well, you know, the thing about what we've been talking about today, colonial blacksmithing and just being a colonial interest in our lives. Like I shared in the very beginning, this is what we do all the time. We have friends, you know, our pastor and his wife are here, Dot and Brian are here, Pat and Fred are in the back, and they have been to our home, and so these things we took out of our home to bring here. So when you go into our home, it was a new home about 6 years ago, but you walk in and it's about an 1860s home. So everything we have there is old style.
Now that I've met him, do you have electricity in your house?
We do have electricity, unfortunately.
I would. A flat screen TV about that big. It's a little one.
You know, so, you know, there are a few amenities that we do have. When we do our historical reenactments and we go out, we can be out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and I can do without. You know, I've hauled water. I've used a porta potty. I've done, you know, all kinds of things, and it's a bush, which we don't really talk about. But anyway, those are just really fun things to do, you know, and it's very family oriented. Shooting black powder guns and throwing tomahawk and knife and just a variety of things is so fun and a good way to have history brought into your life. Everything is family oriented, so once the kids get there, our daughter grew up there, we wouldn't see her probably for 2 or 3 days. They all had their own teepee. Everybody slept in there together, guys and girls, never worried about anything, and it was just a lot of fun for them. So I hope that our interest has passed on a little bit of that to you today. One other thing I would like to share with you, as many times as we've talked about things that they have found and things that were made on the frontier, very few pieces actually exist anymore. There's a few in museums, there's a few in private collections, but most of the art and most of the ironwork is still out on the Camino Real or Oregon Trail, Butterfield Trail, any of those trails that our ancestors took to get to where we are today. There are those that are not that happy with what Oñate did. As a Native American, I'm one of those that he's not my most favorite person. However, without him being the explorer that he was and bringing all this knowledge that we have today, we do have to give him some credit in some ways. So as Hopper comments numerous times, history was written by the winners. And so we only know what we have that has been written for us, you know, to pass on to others. Sometimes we may give incorrect information. We don't do that intentionally. We only glean what we have to go by. But blacksmithing did continue. It's continuing on today. Most of it, for the most part in New Mexico, is still in Santa Fe. When we are down at the farmer's market or we are out looking around, a lot of people will say, oh, well, blacksmithing, it's a dying art. Well, indeed, the way Hopper does it is a dying art, because most of the men that you see, and there are a few gals that do work too, they are more into fabrication. They do a lot more in the way of using electric tools and just a totally different format than what you've seen Hopper work today. You've seen him work with his arm. You've seen him work just with a hammer. Oh, yes, you poor little thing. And so, you know, blacksmithing is still around, but just in a different format. So when you hear of a historical blacksmithing, always think of who you saw today, and that's Hopper. there is one family in New Mexico, the Sena family, and they are in Santa Fe. And they have probably gone back about 6 or 7 generations of someone in their family being a blacksmith. And so they continue today. But do search out all the opportunities that we have in New Mexico. Go to Los Golondrinas in Santa Fe. It's an absolutely fabulous working museum.
Palace of the Governor.
Palace of the Governors.
Really?
You know,
Great.
any of the museums up on Museum Hill, you know, Colonial Museum. And that way you'll be able to see a lot of the different strikers, the striker lights. They have a big poster, and there's probably 100 different ones on there. You would never think that they could turn that steel into making that many different design work on them. But
I want to thank everyone for coming.
This program is made possible in part by a grant from Humanities Texas, the state affiliate of the National Endowment for the Humanities.